I'm in search of conversation guests. If you are interested or know someone that might be interested, please contact me directly. Thank you. All right, let's go back. Let's go to you. So currently you're a product safety engineer. What do you do every day? What's that entail?
So a product safety engineer is we test and certify products before they go to market. So if a manufacturer has something that they want to sell, let's say I have a cell phone here that I want to sell. So I've designed it and I want to sell it to market. So I want to sell it in the US, I want to sell it in Japan, I want to sell it in Europe and Canada. So I'm going to bring this because of regulatory requirements in each country. You have to show that this product is safe to be sold to the market. So you have to go to an agency like our company to do all of the safety testing and certification and make sure that it's safe. Once we've done a full evaluation on your product, we'll give you a certificate that you now show where the countries that you want to enter. So we do an evaluation based on where you want to go to market. And then once you've completed all the requirements, we'll get you the report and certification and you show that to them and they will let you sell your product in that market.
What type of testing is it, if it's have you done phones in your company? Is it more like plastic play things or devices? What type of devices come through then?
We get all kinds. My area of expertise is I do a lot of environmental testing. So your kiosks, for instance, if you are entering a parking lot outdoor and you have to put your money in and get a ticket spit out, that kiosk has to be tested to ensure that it can withstand the outdoor environmental elements, dust and water, humidity, that kind of thing. And then we also, another area that I specialize in is laboratory measurement equipment. So I do a lot of medical device sterilizers and things that in vitro diagnostic machines. And another area we do is household products, which is, I'm testing a slot machine right now for casinos. We do spas, hair flat irons, blow dryers, curlers, anything you plug in. We want to make sure that it's safe for the end user. So nobody's going to get hurt in the process of using any type of product. So anything you turn over, you look on the back side of it and you'll see agency markings. Oftentimes you'll see like the manufacturer's name, you'll see the model, and then you'll see all these little marks on there. So our company is Tubsud, and it's one of those little marks that you'll see showing that this product has been tested and it's safe for your use.
Have you had any like accidents, as in or has a device ever hurt you or? Oh yeah. What was the worst one?
Yeah, there was a time where, so one of the tests we have to do is we apply it with the amount of power it needs to fully run and operate. And then we have to lift the ground or bypass the ground. So in the event it were out in the real world and it lost the ground connection, nobody would get touched if they touched one of usually a conductive surface, any metals or anything like that. And so that's a typical test that we'll run on a lot of products. And so I was doing that test and I accidentally, my arm bumped it and there was no ground to it. And it shocked me. Obviously it didn't pass. I mean, because even if it does, the criteria allows for a little bit of leakage current to come out of those devices, but not to the point where anybody would get hurt or that you would even feel it. And so in that situation, I got shocked from it. And then obviously had to write a negative report for them and let them know you've got to go back and redesign and figure this out.
In a perfect scenario, so that was just you accidentally bumped into it. So in that scenario, would there normally be some type of measuring device that you hook up and then you'd be able to, so that was just
different meters and things.
How did just out of curiosity, so when you bumped into it, was it faulty? Would you break it to make it faulty? Or
Oftentimes the standards do require that we push them to the max. So we will run them in their worst conditions, where we will measure the highest current and power draws coming off of them, and then we'll apply some abnormal tests. So if we're testing a laptop and there's a fan in your laptop, we're going to stall the fan or disconnect it and then apply full power and use it and see how hot is it going to get. Are any of those components inside, how we measure the temperature on each one of them and see if they exceed their limit, or will a fire break out, or, there's a number of hazards that could potentially happen. So a lot of products, we have to push them to their limit and run these abnormal tests on them, so that in the real world, if any of these fault conditions happen, it's already been tested and covered.
What do you think's the most interesting unknown or lesser known about your profession in this way? Like, meaning, so maybe you review so many products and so many Americans do use these products, and we take for granted the amount of safety that your company provides us? Or I don't know, is there any bits of information that you find really interesting that not too many people know about this?
I think our industry is a niche industry, and often people don't realize it and know it, and the impact that it has in your everyday life. I guarantee you there's products in your house right now, your toasters or your washing machines, or anything you plug in, your chargers, your laptops, your power supplies. You turn them over and I guarantee you that you're going to see our mark on some of them. People don't realize how we are everywhere, but yet nowhere. People don't see them because unless you're in this industry, you don't think to go look on a marking label, to see. I'll be going through the mall and I find a lot of times things where last summer that was in our lab and I was doing the safety testing on it, and now I see it out when I'm shopping. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. What's a rewarding moment, and or even actually, what product do you kind of feel that is there a product that you may have dealt with a lot where you felt that you had a big impact on it at all? Or do so many products come through, it's kind of it feels like a,
No, I enjoy it. I'm really grateful I get the opportunity to do it. And I think one of the coolest ones I've done fairly recently is I did some environmental testing for a company that makes these lift gates when you're entering a parking lot or a parking garage. And a few months later, I saw them at a local mall, and I see our mark on the back of them. And I'm like, that is so cool. That was not too long ago. We were doing some testing on that, some rain testing and hitting it with a high power hose, and corrosion testing to make sure that it withstands, the environment it's going to be used in. But those are the moments where it comes full circle.
Yeah.
And you really, and things you see, I'll see commercials for stuff that has been in our lab. A lot of well-known, we have a lot of big clients that make well-known products, everyday stuff that people use. It's the niche that you're not aware of unless you're in it.
Yeah. How did you get into this line of work?
So my stepfather was an engineer there, and he got my mother a job. So my mom has been there for 26 years, and 15 years ago was waitressing, and my mom was like, I think you should consider, they have an opening and you should consider coming on board. You'd get health insurance, start a retirement, all of that kind of stuff. And so I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. So I interviewed for the position of an entry-level admin at the company, and I got the job. Literally my first day, I didn't know how to turn on the computer. I had never been in that kind of environment at all. And at the time, laptops, computers were not part of our everyday life like they are now. And so I literally started from the ground up. And from there, I just kind of worked my way up, went to school. I thought it was a great company. They take great care of their employees, and we work hard for them. So it's a good match.
You said you started as a entry-level admin?
Mm-hmm.
And then what was your progression thereafter?
So I knew probably about 2 years in, I was waitressing at night. So for the first 2 years I worked there, I'd be there during the day full-time, 9 to 5. And then at night I'd be waitressing at El Torito.
You're working 2 jobs?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
because I was waitressing before I got the job there. So I didn't give it up. I just changed my schedule to only work nights and weekends. And I don't know. I figured I wasn't doing anything else at night or the weekend, so I'm going to keep my other job. And I did that for a couple of years. And every day I'd go to work and I'd realize those guys in the lab, they're engineers and they have a really cool job. I come in and I sit at my desk and I'm like pounding away at the computer, creating certificates and, opening projects for them. But they're in the lab getting hands-on, doing really cool stuff. I hear real cool stuff going on in there. When we're testing slot machines, it sounds like a lot of fun. Or there's times where I've seen things catch fire and I'm like, what's going on in there? I want to do that. And so I ended up asking my boss, like, how do I become an engineer? And he was like, well, you gotta go to school for electronic engineering to even be considered. So I was like, okay. And I literally went back to my computer and Googled, did a little research. I decided to go to ITT Tech, which is a trade school, but they had an electronic engineering program. So I enrolled and went there. And at that time, once I started school is when I cut off the second job and started going to school at night and weekends, because it was full-time school, full-time work. And, I just buckled down for a few years. And I think my boss and a lot of my colleagues saw the motivation I had to do better and kind of get a better position. So once I graduated, a few months later, my boss gave me my first technical role I was our test technician. And so he let me run our lab operations, do all of the testing and that kind of thing. So it was fun. It was cool. I'm grateful.
That's awesome. I hear so you said electrical engineering. I hear that's a pretty tough degree.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It is. It's challenging. I was good at it, but thankfully I worked with a lot of really smart people. So I would find myself in the lunchroom or in their offices at lunchtime trying to figure out how to do stuff that I didn't understand. But it stretched my brain and pushed me past my limits. But it was just, you just buckle down while you have to get through it. And then it was so worth it. It was so worth it.
I don't remember this answer from high school. Were you pretty book smart in high school, or was that?
I think I was average. I got typically B's, I think, were my normal grade, a couple of A's here and there, a couple of C's here and there. But overall, I think I was just an average student, maybe a 3.5 GPA or 3.3. And then I didn't know anything about engineering. In fact, in high school, I wanted to be an actress. And even on the side, I was registered for background casting companies. And so I'd do that, on the side to make money while I was going in high school and be an extra in all these shows that were done in San Diego. And then I moved to LA to pursue a career in acting. So I really had no desire. I didn't even know about the world of engineering growing up or even out of high school. It wasn't until I started working there that my eyes were opened.
That's awesome. Was it daunting to think that you're going to do an electrical engineering degree so when you asked, take me back to when you asked your boss I think you said you wanted to do that job. How do you get started? And he said you need to get a degree in electrical engineering. Did that seem daunting to you? Were you scared? Were you?
No, I think actually I have been given the ability to just go after things when I want something. I think okay, so how do I get there? How do I practically apply this to my life? And we're just going to go through and push through until we get there. It can work in good and bad ways, but that was one of the good ways that it worked. And so it was more of I knew that it would be worth it for the rest of my life. It was a lot of sacrifice. So many times my family would be going on vacations or getting together, and I had class on Saturday, almost every Saturday for years. And then after work, you miss out on birthday parties, you miss out on gatherings, you miss out people want to go do this and that. And I couldn't do it because I was in school, and I knew that I wanted to do it, get through it and finish it. And a part of me really liked it. Thankfully, I didn't know if I was going to like it going in, but being in the lab, being hands-on, creating different circuits and then seeing the outcome, the end result. I remember making in one of our labs, we had to make a stop light, the red, yellow, green stop light, but we had to build it on a little breadboard and create the circuit for it. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. I'm I never thought I would take a liking to this, but thankfully I did. And it worked out well.
Yeah, I wish I would have taken that a little bit more seriously. We had I think it's the breadboard, but we had like it was kind of like a digital display for a number, like the number 8, number 9, like the one on a calculator, and we'd
Yeah.
have to plug in AND gates, nor OR gates.
Yeah.
And yeah. So
I remember doing one like that too.
I had to do that. I felt like I didn't take it seriously enough. I understood some of it, but looking back, I wish I would have dived a little bit more into that just for fun. I think that now looking back, I think that would have been a fun thing to get more into, get more hands-on.
Oftentimes, I think what a lot of students don't realize is we try to do the best we can when we're in school and get everything out of it that we want to get out of it. But really, what you take with you to the real world, you're taught on the job. So my everyday job, it's good to know the basics of electronic engineering, electrical engineering, know your basic circuitry and, how to read a schematic, know the different diagrams, but they teach you on the job. So a lot of what I learned in college, you don't take with you, or you don't actually apply it in your everyday.
Exactly.
It's good to know, and I'm glad that I learned it, and it's all back there somewhere. I needed to refresh on it. It's all in there, but
yeah, I hear that it's so common with all professions. It seems like, where even for me as a software engineer, the things that I learned in school, my programming classes, it feels like I use a fraction of what they taught me. And in the real world, it's so different than what you learned in school. So walk me through, what age were you so you were waitressing at what age? And then when did you start working? And then what age did you talk to your boss about going to school?
So I got a job there. I think I just turned 23, or I was about to be 23. So I had been waitressing. I had been back in San Diego for almost a year from LA, and I was waitressing during the day. And then when I got the job, I was there a good 2 years. So I think I was about 25 when I had that conversation, literally brief conversation with my boss. And he, was working, just looks up at me and was like, "This is what you got to do."
He probably, do you
I don't think he thought I was serious.
Yeah, no, and I could totally understand it from somebody that, talking to a entry-level admin. He's probably like, yeah, go to school if you want to. And then
it's funny because I still work with him. He still works there. He's not my boss anymore, but he still works there, and we work together regularly.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. But.
So about 25 is when you went back to school. What were you thinking mentally around, at that time, 25, and once he said, we like to hire people into this position that have a degree. So at 25, were you thinking, did it take you a few months to pull the trigger, or?
No, I went back to my desk and I started Googling schools with electronic engineering programs. And then I was talking to some of my colleagues, and even my boss himself, I knew had gone to ITT Tech. Some of our engineers had, and I remember him saying he liked hiring students out of there because they had a great hands-on program. And so I looked up that school. Then I also looked up City College had a program as well, and some of the other ones. But I had to start from the ground up because I had only taken a couple of college courses at that point. So after talking with them and seeing some of our engineers where they had come from, I decided I was going to do ITT Tech, and it was kind of the fast route. They really get you hands-on. They teach you from the ground up everything you need to know. And it was a great program, a great school. Sad to see they're not around anymore, but it was great for the time being.
Yeah, I went to a trade university also, and they recently, I think just a couple of years ago, they went out of business. But it was very similar. A lot of companies, it was called Coleman University. A lot of companies they're very similar to ITT Tech. I forget what the question was. So you decided to go back. I think the question was going to be, so you're 25 and you're Googling electrical engineering courses in colleges. Do you think, so between the age of 18 and 25, it was mostly waitressing, going to Hollywood, trying that. did you come across a thought that, man, I'm going to college, this is going to be very tough? Or did you were just gung-ho and you ran into it?
At that point, I literally, from the time I Googled it, I within a week had an appointment with a counselor to tour the school, and then I enrolled. So they do 11 weeks on, 1 week off. So I enrolled for the beginning session,
Okay.
was in a
Yeah.
couple of weeks, and
Yeah.
I was there. I hadn't had the college experience yet since high school because I moved to LA. And so I was excited to kind of be able to experience somewhat what it would be like. It wasn't the full on because I was working full time, but I was excited. I've always been a learner. I still now am a constant learner and like to always be learning and growing. And so it was something that I didn't have my daughter at the time either. And so I decided to do it and I jumped in with both feet and I fully committed to it until I was done. And then, 3 months later, I think my boss saw me sticking it out and really trying all those years. And he started giving me opportunity to kind of shadow the engineers and work a little bit under them. And then once I was done, he officially a few months later promoted me and I got my first like real raise. I had a real engineering position and I was like, this is cool. I got to, work in the lab and I was like, man, it was all worth it now.
That's so
And then it
awesome.
just gets better from there.
It's a beautiful story. When you look back, is there points where you feel young, you reflect that you were young and dumb and you were more bold than you would either be now, or just that you realize you're very bold? Like, meaning when you look back at yourself 25 years old jumping into electrical engineering and what you know now, do you think you're bold for making that move, or talking to your boss about it, do you think?
Well, nobody's going to hand it to us. And so I've thankfully had that kind of take the initiative of my own life, my whole life. And so nobody was going to do the work for me. It was either I could stay in the administrative position and enjoy life outside of work, like, we do, and live day to day, but it wasn't going to get me anywhere in the future. And I knew for some reason when I was little, I always thought I wanted to have a nice and comfortable home. And so I even remember saying when I was little, like, I'm going to work so many jobs so that I can have a nice and comfortable home, because I don't know why. It was just one of the goals I had for myself. No. And so I knew that the life that I wanted for myself in the future wasn't going to come by having an entry-level admin position. And I wanted I thought if I could buckle down for a handful of years, then the rest of my life will be worth it. At least I'll have this. And thankfully, I'm one of the ones that is working in the field that my degree was for. Not a lot of people, it wasn't something I realized, but now I realize not a lot of people are necessarily working in the field that they went to school for.
Yep.
And so I'm grateful that I get to be one of those.
Yeah. If I could go back in time, I would have wished I would have changed my major from computer networks to computer science, because I'm a programmer now. So it would have just been nicer to, probably the first few years of my career would have been easier, because as I switched to a programmer, and then on my resume it said I had a computer networks degree. So certain interviewers would ask me, hey, why do you have a computer networks degree but you're applying for a programming job? It was just that for a couple years a little bit tough. But after I got enough years and as a computer programmer, it wasn't really an issue. But I think having a few more programming classes might have helped jumpstart my career better. But I actually like what you said about being a self-starter and just taking the bull on by the horns. When I got my first programming job, which it was completely literally it was just pure luck. I was doing computer networks and hardware, and then I got laid off, and then a friend said, hey, I work at doing software, I do programming, he said, we need to hire one more person maybe, but we need someone that maybe does half of their time on networks and hardware and someone that does half of their time on programming. And at the time I'm like, I don't know anything about programming. So he said, well, his company's interested in me if I'd like to try it. And I'm like, yeah, I'll try it. I don't know if I'll learn fast enough for you guys. I have no idea. And I got in there on the first day. They threw me this thick programming book, like it was like 1,500 pages, and it was just like it was like a 10-pound book. And I'm like, and they just threw it at me and said read, and I'm just like looking at it like, okay. So I just start reading. I'm fixing their hardware, their network, but then probably 4 to 6 hours of the day I'm free to just read this book. So I just start reading it, and I take it home and I read it at home also, and I start programming. And 6 months in, the manager's like, wow, you're picking this up pretty quick. You want your first task? I'm like, yeah. And then that first task came through. I did it. He's that you did pretty good. You want your first full-on program? I'm like full application by myself? He's like, yeah, you'll be the lead on that. I'm like, okay. So I did that. And then at home, I was still learning at home. So at home, I had this brilliant idea. I was like, so this is 2003, 2004. Keep in mind, 2003, 2004. I think not everyone had cell phones yet. 2003, 2004. What other things? So Yelp wasn't really kicking until I think 2006, 2005 or something. So I was sitting at home. I was programming, just trying out this book and stuff. And I thought of this idea as like, when I go to Google, I want to research like, hey, is El Torito's over there, that restaurant, is it good? Is Walmart over there good? Or is that restaurant, I'm trying to remember my favorite Mexican restaurant in San Diego. It has the like orange color hot sauce. I can't remember the name right now. Anyways, so I was like thinking, I want to review restaurants. I want to see reviews of restaurants. So at 2002, 2003, I'm just like programming this thing where it's a search engine for restaurants and reviews.
Wow.
And then nothing existed for it yet. So I started building this thing, and I called it suggestionfinder.com. Super long name, I know, but it encompassed what I wanted to do. You find suggestions. So I started building the website. I built flyers, and I started walking around to businesses, said, hey, can you sign up? Do you want to sign up your business? This is a free service. But the only thing is you're going to get online reviews. If someone says something bad about your restaurant, I can't control it. And they're like, this seems like a scam. And I'm like, no, it's not a scam. Like, I'm the programmer. This is free advertisement for you. You get kind of like a web page for yourself, but the reviews is driven by people around the world, and you can't control that. And then they're like, it's free? And I was like, yeah, it's free. All you have to do is just sign up, put your business name, have your phone number on there, and your address. That's it. And they're like, I don't know. This seems like a scam. A couple years later, Yelp comes out. And I'm like, damn it, my multi-million-dollar idea. So it's just, sorry, I went total tangent on that idea.
No, that's really cool, though. That's really admirable. See how you take the initiative of what you want to do. And you have to put in the work, though, right? Because there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work. You had to take that book home and read it and study it and apply it and do it and, ask questions where you need. So you definitely put in your work. Yeah. But you learn. And you're given opportunities. People see your hard work. They see your desire to learn this thing and to get a grip on it, and then to apply it. And I think those are qualities that employers admire, or, in general, people admire. Those are the kind of people that, that inspire me to want to do well and continue and pursue things,
Yeah. So tell me about the electrical engineering classes. Was there programming classes in there too? Because I've heard from two people, so maybe you could be the tiebreaker. Two people that have an electrical engineering degree. Both friends. One friend, he's the type of friend where like I don't trust everything he says. Like, he embellishes a lot. And then I have another friend that I do trust what he says. Both of them say that electrical engineering does have a lot of programming classes in it, and they both kind of say that there's a lot of similarities, or through the education of the electrical engineering, like switching to become a programmer probably wouldn't be too far off. What's your opinion on that?
I would agree with that. There were a lot of programming courses that we had to take, and there was a whole computer element to the program that you had to learn. And so we had to program, one of our final projects was to program a Bobot, where we bought it and then you build the circuits and then you have to program it. So all throughout the program, I think you had to take one course that was an electrical engineering, one kind of a general ed, your math, your physics, whatever it may be under general ed category. And then one was a computer type course. And that was the whole time. And so that's kind of how ITT's curriculum worked. And so there was a lot of computer programming courses that were incorporated with it. So it probably wouldn't have been hard to make a switch at that point. It's all back there somewhere. I haven't used it since.
Yeah. When you say that you constantly like to learn, what are some of the things either that you're currently trying to learn, or things that even beyond at your job, things that you're learning outside of it? Or it could be in your job, because it could be at your job, but just not exactly related to the task at hand.
Yeah, I always like to do a little bit more than what I'm hired to do, I think, at work. And so one of my mentors had gave me a piece of advice saying that always do the job you're hired to do and do it well. But on the side, you always want to be working on that one area that's going to help you grow. And so I have always taken that advice since I heard it. And I am wanting to grow in about a year and a half ago, I got my auditor's authorization. So now I can go to clients' facilities and conduct audits on behalf of the company. And that was just outside of my everyday engineering job. But I realized I really like auditing. So now I decided and had a talk with my boss, I want to grow in auditing. I want to really learn. I want to learn new standards, and I want to learn, I want to learn quality management systems, and I want to learn and grow in that area. And so it's all, on my own time right now, but it's just when I see courses our company offers or LinkedIn learnings that are applicable to something in the future that I want to go into, then I don't hesitate to take them and be a part of things and put my own time and effort and dedication into it to make it happen.
That's awesome. Do you feel that you see that in your daughter? Are you pushing those traits on her?
Sometimes. It's funny because she doesn't always want to, I think she likes to make me think she doesn't always enjoy school. But when I'm not in the room, so she'll always tell me, I don't want to do it. I don't want to read. I don't want to do the math. I don't want to. But then when I'm not in the room and when I'm not looking, she's actually really good and enjoys it. And she's teaching other kids. And I'm like, I think it's just because I'm mom, But no, she does. She right now says that she wants to be an engineer when she grows up. But really, I support her in whatever she chooses to do. Whatever area. She gets a lot of hands-on for a young girl because she... on their days off, when they're off of school, I'll bring her into the lab with me. She'll get to be my little partner and help me with setups or take my photos or whatever. She gets to be involved in a lot of stuff in the lab. I like to give opportunity where I have been given opportunity, not only to her, but to other girls, other high school girls I mentor and things like that. So
yeah, tell me about that. The mentoring with high schoolers. So did that just drop into your lap, or did you happen to find it yourself somewhere? How did that come about?
It came because originally I had been given the opportunity to be a mentee, and my mentor was he was a CEO, and I felt like what he saw in me, he pulled out something in me that I didn't necessarily see, and I saw the value that being in that mentor-mentee relationship brought to my life and my career, and I wanted to give that to other kids, but I didn't necessarily go into the mentoring relationship that I have now with the girls in that way. So I'm a member of the Society of Women Engineers, and they had an open house, and one girl and her mom sat next to me, and we were at the open house, and we just started talking because we're sitting at the same table. And turns out, they asked what I do, and I was a safety engineer, and their high school team, she was on a high school robotics team, they were known for being the safety team. And so we swapped information. And from there on, we just kind of kept in communication. I'd see them at different events held by the Society of Women Engineers. And it evolved into this mentee-mentor relationship. I brought her on one summer for her to do an internship at our company, and she really got to be, at 15 years old, got to work in the lab and as a technician and see what we do and is that something she wants to do. I help her robotics team. It's her and about 4 other girls on the robotics team that I help, and anything that I can support them with where I could use, they'll have career days, and so I'll come in there and present a presentation on safety engineering and see if any of the girls like it and give them whatever opportunity I can, support their teams, be a judge in their robotics competitions, wherever I can help them. So it's cool.
Yeah. For that, so it's mentoring high schoolers, and then is there what's the focus? Just to show them engineering, that women can, that they should do it, that they could do it, and to destigmatize any preconception that it's more that engineering mostly guys do it, or what's the focus? I guess what's the focus of it in your own words?
Yeah, if they have a desire to become an engineer, I really like to give them the opportunity to take a firsthand look into a career field in engineering. So I'll hold, they've gone on tours through our labs. I'll walk them through tests, let them shadow what it looks like, the good parts and the not so good parts, or fun parts, not so fun parts. So they have a realistic view on it and really can decide before they make their decision on which college courses or what degree they want to go for. Is this an option for me? Is that something that I want to do for myself or could consider or see myself doing? Oftentimes people don't even know that our career field exists and what we do. And so I like to open their eyes to that. And if they have a greater interest, then say, come on in, come take a tour, come on in, come shadow. I'll help you out as much as I can, answer any questions you have.
Did you find that the engineering field is mostly guys, and or how do you feel about that, or has it affected you?
It is predominantly male. There's been plenty of times in my engineering journey where I've taken classes and the company will send me to a training class for something, and I was the youngest and the only girl for many, many years. And then as time has gone by, I start to see more women in the field. I start to see more women in engineering. I do have a mentor at work. She's been there longer than I have. And she's been one of the great assets in my career and just really helping me and taking me under her wing. And as I'm learning and growing in different areas, she helps me. And I just see the value of helping our next generation, especially girls, because we're so outnumbered by men. So really shining a light on that and saying, hey, I'll step out and show you what I do. And maybe you can see yourself in me. Maybe you could see yourself here. Something will relate to you. And if anything, open your mind to the fact that this is an option for you. Not everybody had that. And I know growing up, I didn't. I had no idea about engineering, and especially that girls could do it. That just typically wasn't the role we saw them in. And so just try to break those stereotypes.
Have you, in your career, happened to run into any like sexist remarks, or guys that didn't either let you speak your mind or maybe held projects back because you're a female and not a male?
I've experienced some of that. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's, especially earlier on, it was, so we would walk into a room and I'd call for a meeting to have with the clients to kind of give them an overview on what you can expect during a product evaluation. And they'll be waiting in the conference room and I walk in and they're just kind of like, so where's the engineer that's going to help us? And I'm like, I'm here. we're going to do this together. And it's not until I start talking and I speak in technical terms and they kind of, you have to earn their confidence and like, okay, this girl really does know her stuff and she knows what she's talking about. It's an unfortunate thing, but I've experienced that more than one occasion. Whereas I feel like if a man walked in the room, they're like, okay, let's sit down and let's do this.
That's really unfortunate. Do you think it has it felt better has it gotten better through the years?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely has. I think we're starting to see it, women in these positions as becoming more normal. It's not, whereas when I first started, it wasn't seen very often. And so a lot of people I felt like were maybe caught by surprise when you're a younger one and you're a female. Whereas now, uh, we have more females on our team than we ever have before. And I just see, even applications coming through, we'll see for more females than we ever had before. And in college courses, there's more of an interest in this next generation of women, regarding engineering than I had ever been aware of. And I think that has to do with a lot of women willing to step out and show that I'm a woman in this field, I can do it, and so can you. And I'm here to hold your hand and help you and pull you up if this is something you want to do it.
If you were to give advice to a woman that's interested in getting into this field, or no, I would say if you had advice for a woman that came to you and said that they encountered that situation that you were in, where you felt that you walked into a conference room and they said, "Where's the engineer?" What advice would you give to another woman for that?
Their response to you says everything about them and nothing about you. So you go in and you be prepared, because that really is one of the best ways to walk into a situation, is to really prepare and know your stuff. But don't let it affect you. Don't let it bother you, because they're responding out of their lens in which they think they have experienced, and that doesn't say anything about you and your abilities and where you're going.
What were some of your mental reactions right at that moment and then shortly after that moment? So when the first time it happened, when you walk into a room and you're the engineer and the guy says, "Where's the engineer?" What was your first thought right then?
Really? Like, I'm right here. Like, I'm not sure who you're looking for, because I'm right here. I don't think I took an offense to it. It was more like I took it as I needed to make him aware that I was the one who's going to be handling his product evaluation.
Do you happen to remember reflecting on it a couple days, or even for me, for whatever reason, some of those events for me, it takes me a couple hours, even sometimes a couple days, to kind of reflect and actually get what I truly feel. Because at the moment I may feel angry, and then a couple days later I'm like, oh, I should have reacted this way. Do you remember thinking shortly after, a couple hours, couple days on it or anything?
I remember thinking that at that moment, it hit me how there were not women in that position. And even days after reflecting, it built a desire in me to want to go out and make the public or the world know that females are in engineering. That shouldn't be the response we get from people. That shouldn't be the response that somebody gives a young female who steps in, who's fully qualified to do the position they're hired to do. And so, if anything, I took it as, I'm gonna step out and do what I need to do to make the world know that it's okay to be a female engineer. That we are normal. We can be a part of this world too. It's not just a man's world, you know.
Yeah. My story is going to seem so, I guess, tiny compared to what you as women have to go through, but I'll just throw it out there. So I'm a short Asian guy, and being Asian, my age often looks pretty young. Even within this happened 6 years ago. So 6 years ago, I was 32 years old, and I went for an interview. So I started in IT when I was 20 years old. So I have 12 years of experience on my resume. At that time, 12 years in IT, 8 years as a programmer. Yeah, 8 years as a programmer, 12 years in IT. And so I get in a suit because it was for a senior software engineer position. On the phone, everything's cool. We did the phone interview. Everything was great. They talked to me. They were really happy. They're really excited to meet me. I kid you not, when I walk into the meeting room to meet them for the first time, I saw their smile. well, as soon as I walk in, I see them all smiling, and it's like, I could read on their faces was like, is this a 14-year-old boy that just walked into the room? We talked to somebody that has 12 years of IT experience. What happened? And I knew I didn't get the job. It's like, I could talk as much as I want. I put on the spot, I throw some amazing stories of things that I've been through. Like I was a contractor to the Navy doing software. We're sending data through like 130 ships. We're sending data through the satellites to aggregate all the data of the ships if they're ready for war or not. I worked for IBM. I worked for UCSD. I've worked for a large casino. So I have a lot of experience. And then even that, I'll talk about my side projects. I created Yelp before Yelp was Yelp. I feel like I had a pretty good start on an AI poker program. So a program that could play Texas Hold'em poker, and it actually learns from every hand. It records every hand it sees, and it recalculates its algorithm. It changes its weights on each question. So you could add questions. So that part, it's not AI, but it could alter the weight. So like if you put in a question like, was I under the gun, which is the third spot to the first spot to bet on the first hand. So that changes the weight. Like, should they be aggressive, or in actuality, they should be less aggressive on the under the gun spot. So like I had like 100 and something questions on that and weights that it could change. And it was awesome when I played the first hand against it. It was fucking bluffing on against me. It was freaking awesome. So I mean, all that experience I had up to that interview, and I walk in a suit, and I feel like I look really sharp, and their smile goes from a smile to a frown, and I could read their faces. And I do my best. I try not to let it, like you said, I think you beautifully said, whatever they say or what they do is a reflection of themselves. It's not of me. I know I put in my 12 years at that time, and I know that I feel like I'm an amazing programmer. I think I'm an amazing software engineer. You throw anything at me, I'm going to figure it out eventually. It might take some time, but I'll figure it out. So it's interesting where people have stereotypes on short Asian guys, and then for you as a woman to go through as an electrical engineer, then to become in the product safety profession, and then to go through that. It's good to hear your story, and it's good to hear your side of it. I think it's great that you turned the story into saying, know your stuff. You walk in, and once you start talking, people realize, holy shit, this woman knows her stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, that's what we, until female engineers are the norm and we're not seen as something different, or, we really have to do our part and be prepared and know what you're talking about and be able to answer their questions. And, eventually it comes through, it shows. Those stereotypes are hard to break, but we can do them. And I like to do my part in trying to break the stereotype of what an engineer looks like. So I work with a number of organizations that highlight female engineers, or that work with the younger generation and showing them and opening their eyes and their minds that this is for you too. Because I feel like that's the best way we can combat a stereotype, is making it the norm.
Yeah. So you went, was there any, so at the age of 25, you worked there as an admin. About 2 years in, you went to school. The hunkering down thing, I totally feel that when you said you worked full time, and then you quit your El Torito's job, and then you're doing nighttime schooling. That's what when I was working as a software engineer, gosh, what was it, 2005, 2006? I actually only had my associate's degree in computer networks at that time. And then I started noticing my everyday life started kind of getting the same. Like, I would just go to work, come home, play some video games, have a barbecue with some friends, and I started thinking about, man, I should get a bachelor's degree. Just it would make things easier having that degree. So then seeing that everyday life was kind of every day, like go to work, come home, go to work, come home. I felt like I could sacrifice those evenings and take night classes, and that's what I told myself. I think it was at that time from my associates to the bachelor's. I think it was like I think it was 2 more years. So when I decided to go back to school, 2006 or something, I knew it was going to be around 2 or 3 years more till I get my bachelor's degree because it was night classes. And yeah, I just told myself hunker down, and anybody invite you out to parties, you're probably not going to be able to go party, and that was just the life.
That's a lot of, a lot of school is like that, but you just know, there's an end point. So you just discipline yourself for that time period, and then what's to come is so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially, have you happened to see some of the, I didn't know about this till just recently. I made a comment to somebody, we were talking about the cost of college. I'm like, cost of college isn't that much. I mean, and then we looked online, and I was looking at the prices nowadays. Since I went to college, it seems like it's almost doubled in price in a lot of places. I didn't know about that.
I'm still paying off student loans.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate, but
yeah, I just finished mine last year, but I aggressively was paying them off just to get them. Which, I mean, student loans, if you get lucky, you might have like the 2 or 3% APR loans. Mm-hmm. But if not, then you could try to aggressively pay them off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you unfortunately looked at the length of time for those student loans? Have you looked at how long it'll be out before it's paid off?
Yeah, I got a handful of years. One of them is really close. I think I have a couple more months, or I could just do a big chunk and pay it.
Yeah.
So in the next 2 to 3 months, I think that one will be. But then I have another one that over the years, they just get sold off and pieces sold off to the lenders. It's kind of it hasn't been in my control always. They just, the company sells it off to another company and they notify me. Yeah. So I have a federal loan out, the larger one. And so that one, I think I have like 6 or 7 years still.
Yeah.
It's going to be a while.
Yeah.
But it's still worth it.
Yeah, because of the salary.
Yeah,
the salary and opportunity. Because then also the future too. Because as your current job and your promotions and this pay hopefully should get higher, and then eventually even the student loans will drop off, and you'll still getting more pay. So it should pay off. What were some of the most challenging moments at your job for you?
Well, if I'm being honest, it's difficult for me what we do. It's a lot of technical terminology and talk and understanding this whole technical world. And it's a challenge for me. I have to work really hard at it. There are certain aspects that I really enjoy and I feel come naturally. But then there's the whole nother side, a deeper side to it that I have to work really hard at. And so thankfully, that's where our team comes in, because I will have to have them break it down. We read these standards and they're not always written by English native speakers. And so they're translated into different languages. And sometimes it just doesn't always make sense, the technical terms on top of the translating from another language. And so our team, thankfully, they're always there. They don't ever make me feel bad, but they just break it down for me, like, this is what it means. And so then I have to turn around and apply it and do it to really get the full understanding of it. It's a lot of that. It's still a lot of work, even though I've been in the engineering, positions for 10 years. And then before that, the support, I've been in this world for 15 years. I'm still learning a lot. There's always so much to learn. And I work with some incredibly smart people.
Yeah, as a programmer, the world of programming is constantly growing, and it's at a staggering rate. It seems like there's new technologies all the time. I'm just like, gosh, it's never ending. It is just massive.
And every product is different. Every evaluation is different. We could do a product on a pair of virtual reality, the game set, and then the next evaluation that you're doing is going to be a common household blender or something, or we're going to do, so what you apply to the standards is different than based upon the type of unit you're testing. So not every part of the standard is applicable. We get new units in, you learn new things all the time, but it's good. I mean, my brain likes to keep up with that. So
is the product safety testing, is there a lot of demand for that nationally at all? If some person, a young person, asked about your career, would you suggest them get started in that career now, or is it?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's required by OSHA, is one of the ones. If you want to sell in the U.S. here or in Canada, it's required that your product is safety tested and given an agency marking to ensure that it's safe for consumer use. They're a little more lenient in other parts of the world, but in the US and in Canada, you have to have an agency approval in order to sell anything that you make. So, you just look on the back of anything in your house that you plug in, and you'll see on that marking label.
Yeah. Is there a niche at all on, say, or maybe it's easier to ask, how many competitors does your company have?
A lot. So I'm not sure if...
So that probably answers my next question, is so there is a lot of safety engineers out there. Like
there are.
Okay. I was somehow thinking maybe like your company might only have like say 5 major competitors nationally, and maybe so if there's only 5 big companies doing this, then it's like it might be hard to get into that.
Well, okay, in that sense, I think that is accurate to say. There's a handful of players in the U.S. that do what we do, and like I said, it's a niche, and so each of the engineers has a specialized field of expertise. So depending on the standards and the categories that we are proficient in, then I guess that's where you have an advantage. Like we have an opening right now, a couple of them for engineers, but we can't find people who have the background for it. We can't find people who have had the experience in it, because it is such a niche that it's a little bit hard to find people to come in. You bring somebody and you're training them from the ground up, which is great if we're, a lot of times we'll go looking for college kids that we can bring in because they're still young and adaptable and want to learn and grow and motivated. But it is that niche. And so we have, we're waiting for the right applicants to come our way to fill the position, because, we're looking for more people to come on board, but there's not a lot out there.
Not quite a devil's advocate question, more of a curiosity of okay, if I had a magical wand and I'm a weirdo and I said, poof, all product safety engineer jobs are gone out of existence, we don't ever need it, just what lateral job movement would you do? What job would you find thereafter?
Quality assurance in any company has to have a quality management systems, or
okay.
Yeah, you have to ensure that they comply, just their management systems comply with different standards to make sure that they have processes in place for their employees, that they're abiding by guidelines and requirements.
Yeah, that's a great answer. My train of thought was thinking, me asking if it's a niche, does that mean that it's a tough degree to get, tough job to get, and then if you lose the job, are you kind of SOL, like is it tough to go somewhere else? But it sounds like you could become a QA engineer.
You can go to quality, you can go to environmental, you can go to EMC, that's electromagnetic compatibility. They're testing the things you don't see to make sure that they meet with FDA requirements and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, is there any professions that you are curious in that's similar to yours at all?
Well, since I've got my auditor's authorization, I really want to do more in that field. Whereas a lot of the engineering work, we take the product and we bring it in the lab and we evaluate it, the full ins and outs of it. and ensure that it's safe. Whereas when you're an auditor, we then go to the client's facility and check their processes, procedures, as well as their production lines, and ensuring that what they're producing is what has been certified, or what they're testing is how we would test it in our lab, whatever, kind of scope their audits for.
Yeah. If I look down, I'm just looking at questions that preload while you talk. Just keep on talking. I'm still listening. Have you ever lived in a different city?
LA, yeah. Born and raised here, but right after high school, actually, I moved to LA for a handful of years to pursue acting. And it was one of those things where I just, I had my mind set on it and was like, I'm going to go there, I'm going to do this, and that's probably, I'm going to do it until I die. And then I got a feel for it and decided, I'm not sure that I'm cut out for this. It was always something I wanted to do. I'm glad I went for it because it answered all those questions. I learned a lot took a lot of training and stuff in that area. And so it helped with public speaking and things that I do now. Being an engineer, it's funny how they correlate, and that kind of helped prepare me for where I am right now. But that wasn't what I was going to do.
What was, for your personal reasons, what were they to not do it anymore?
I felt that I was getting typecast a lot. The more that I was open, it was morally not what I felt. There was a time where I was doing a pilot for FX, and I was cast as a young girl packaging drugs in hardly any clothes, and I just felt like I really enjoyed the art of acting, and if I wanted to do that and bring out that creative side, it was probably going to be more towards stage than television. Television, it was just starting to get typecast a lot, and I felt like I wasn't necessarily comfortable or wanting to pursue all of those roles. So yeah. I'll move back to San Diego and pursue it from there. Just it's not going to be my main focus anymore. So
yeah, I had some family try to get into Hollywood, and it was interesting to hear some of the commentary where he knew if he got typecasted into the Asian stereotypical, some of the stereotypical Asian roles, or try to speak that high-pitched language so that, ching chang chong type of thing. And he just said, if I got paid a bunch of money, I would do it. And it sucks that typecasting is, I think, doing more damage to me as a Asian trying to work in a professional setting, and say white people that interview me or whoever sees those commercials or those movies, that's all they think about when they see me. That's not always the case. I'm just saying that it doesn't do me any favors, and it sucks that our world is about money and greed, and that's somehow that typecasting is probably due to money, really.
That goes along with the stereotyping. I mean, it's one of those things that need to be broken, and the media has a big role and influence in people's lives and what we show them. And so I think they hold a lot of control in having the ability to break stereotypes if they would let go of the typecasting and put people in these roles that aren't typically seen in them and make it more normal.
Yeah. Kind of random thought. When I think about the Mexican friends that I have, I don't know why I'm thinking about this, the typecasting and I think it's the correlation of what the stereotypes that's caused from typecasting. So like when I see Mexican families, I feel like there's a certain family unit thing where Asian families have that too, where family units are so much more important. Me being raised in America, I feel like I see less of an importance on the family unit. So it's unfortunate where certain stereotypes. I didn't really have an exact point with that. All right, next question. Have you ever worked outside of product safety and regulatory and compliance? You might have. Well, you talked about waitressing and trying to get into Hollywood. Is there anything you want to add on that one?
Those were the two bigger ones. I think I had yes. My first job was a florist. I was like
Okay.
14. My mom's
Yeah.
cousin owned a flower shop. And so for a couple of years, I was a florist right out of, I think I was in middle school or high school or something.
Yeah.
Middle school, I want to say, when I started that.
Thinking back, what was your drive to work that early in your life?
Because my mom's cousin owned it, she gave me and my cousin the opportunity when we were young to come in and help in her flower shop. It was just a little single building, and she was the boss, and she was willing to pay us. And so we thought, okay, I mean, I like flowers. I learned how to do arrangements and get creative with the flowers and make balloon arches and all this stuff. It was fun. We did it for a couple of years. So it was a good experience. And I always took that arranging with me. So I know how to arrange a bouquet of flowers.
Yeah, when I was 14, my uncle had a machine shop like as in where they have CNC lathes. I don't know if you're familiar with that, where they cut big pieces of metal to small, intricate pieces that can sell for it's made to the specs of the clients, and they sell for a decent amount of money because they're super high accuracy, like down to thousandths of an inch, if I remember correctly.
Millimeter?
Oh man, I forget. It was
we
less than.
We have some of those specialty pieces where I've had to go to different machine shops and give them the specs that we need these things built to, and
Yeah.
I work with them. Yeah.
Yeah. It was down to like half the thickness of your hair, the tolerances on them.
Yeah.
14 years old, I worked there. I mean, it's interesting how some of those memories you carry with you and it impacts your life. One of the things I really enjoyed at that machine shop was getting my hands on certain things. One summer, my uncle was looking at buying some specific tables for just specific working tables. They had to be like so tall with four wheels at the bottom, and had to have like a podium, kind of like a podium, a place to hold your papers, and then it had to be super sturdy because of the metals that we would put on top of it. And I remember he was looking all around. He's like, man, I forget what it was. Back then it was probably like maybe $300 for that table or something. He's like, we could build that for like, $100 with the pieces we have here. And so he put me on that task. He would weld it, and then I would make it look nice. I would sand it, I would paint it, I would deburr all the sides, and that was a very fun job.
I bet.
Yeah. It's interesting to get into software where I'm so digital. It's great that I'm still doing things with my hands, but it's so digital. And I miss the days of physically doing things. I think that's more of a statement for humans. We are getting so abstractly far away from I don't know, from
One of my favorite parts of the job is getting hands-on, doing the actual testing, because it gets a little bit draining working at the computer for hours on end. I have to break it up, and I love that, I can walk away and go do some tests and then come back later, or start fresh in a new day with writing reports and reading standards and all of that kind of thing. But so much of it is digital, but I definitely have an appreciation for hands-on stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, as a programmer, I look forward to certain meetings where I get to go actually interact with people when I get to go talk or hear somebody or do something other than programming. I used to play this video game. It was text-based. It doesn't really matter, but I think the odd thing that video game taught me was, so that video game, you have like a country with tanks, jets, troops, and you have to supply the food. I forget, there's only a few aspects. There's food, science, but I noticed in that game, and it stuck with me till today, is in that game it was really about specializing. You could either specialize in tanks, you could specialize in food, you could actually be a very prosperous country. If that video game taught me something, I started looking at programming. It's like, I gotta specialize just strictly on programming if I want to make the most money. and I've done well, but as on for the human happiness factor, that's it's a interesting dynamic because I'm not very hands-on with many things. It's really keyboard all day long.
Yeah,
So
that's tough. And I think that I feel like I'm at a point as well where I need to decide what area do I really want to become an expert in, because that's where, you become a little bit more valuable than anyone else in the position that you're in because you have that specialty. But at the same time, I have to make sure that I have a liking to it and there's a desire there for me to want to do it, or else I just feel like maybe after time, the quality of work I would produce is not what it needs to be or should be, just
yeah,
because if I'm not into it, I don't know. So I really am looking right now at like, well, what do I like to do? What am I good at? And that's the area that I want to focus on improving and becoming an expert in.
yeah. Is there bureaucracy with being a product safety engineer? As in, is there certain meetings or companies that try to sway certain things and you got to deal with the human aspect of it?
Definitely. Definitely. I think that's in any field we have. And, that I think it's where we work. It's funny because I see a lot of the same people rotate through agencies. So they'll come through our company, then they'll come through, there's a handful, maybe 3 competitors or so here in Southern California where we are. And so I'll see them jump from company to company and eventually they'll end up back where we are. But, they bring their own story of what each company was like. And they see that's eventually we all end up seeing each other again in this company, or they go to the other side of things on the manufacturing. We end up working and they come back as a client.
Yeah. In programming, the bureaucracy is you get one manager that wants to change the program a certain way, and then you get like a director from a different department. He's no, I don't want to change that way because you're going to affect our department. And then you get a different director come in like, I got more power than all of you, so I'm gonna have it this way. And sometimes it sucks because me as a programmer, I feel like I know best technically how it should go. Mm-hmm. But then it's the human factor that I got.
Yeah, it sounds like it's almost like a power struggle. Yeah. And I think what's great right now, the CEO that we have is, they have ideas and things they want to implement, but he's really great in taking time to listen to the people who actually do the work. So he has, any senior level manager, CEO, vice president, director, they have a limited perspective because they operate up here. They're not on the ground in the work, in the field, doing dealing with what we deal with on a daily basis. And so our CEO has always been really great in making a point to, when he's in town, to get with a handful of people in different positions and really hear their side of things. This is what we're thinking on doing. How would that impact you? This is where we want to go. What do you think on that? How would that translate to what you do now? How do the customers feel about this new thing we implemented from your perspective? And so I really appreciate and admire him doing that, because we've had past CEOs who never did that, but I feel that that's so important to do and to hear. Yeah. We're going to experience things that they'll never know about because it's just not in their daily operations tasks, whatever they do.
Yeah, totally. I worked for a CIO where I'm not sure what, she happened to seem like a yes person. Like every time someone requested something, she would say yes. I don't know if it was her feeling the power struggle where the more she said yes, maybe the more power she ended up getting, or the more friends she's made in the higher positions. But that would cause us at the lower position. It was very challenging to deal with the sporadic changes of IT requirements too often. It was really tough. That's really cool that your company owner is taking your guys' response to heart.
Yeah, I appreciate that he does it. He usually comes in town once a year and sits with me and a handful of other people, all in different positions, different roles within the company, and just wants to hear our perspective on things. So yeah, it's a good quality, and those kind of people I remember and I keep in mind, so that when I move forward, I want to make sure that I consider others, not just myself, when making the decisions that impact everybody.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges you face on in your job or just professionally?
Um, the whole technical world for me just
Ah,
doesn't come
yeah.
easy. That was a um, definitely a lot of challenges, but it's a great thing to go into having a problem solving mindset. And critical thinking skills are really important for this kind of career. But knowing that every problem we run into, there is a solution. I may not always have it, but I'll find it. We have a team of great people who will work with me in finding it, even though it's not their responsibility. We create those relationships where we're willing to do that for our members on our team.
Yeah, I think critical thinking is something so important. I feel like our current school systems don't really do that. As in, with our standardized testing in schools, it seems like it's mostly memorizing a book, memorizing certain concepts in a book, and then you're choosing A, B, or C on a test, A, B, C, or D. I wish our schools were changed to do more critical thinking.
I think, yeah, I think that's so important. It's such an important part of any, I think, engineering position or role, is you have to have those critical thinking skills. And so that's one of the points I let girls know, that they want to know, what can I do now to start getting prepared for that kind of a job. And really work on those critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, because those are what's going to take you and be with you throughout the career.
Yeah, yeah. What about accomplishments in your career or profession?
Um, Thankfully, I have achieved a number of them. I was able to champion a women's network at our company in 2018. We rolled it out. Was it 2018, 2019? 2019, April of 2019. So we have a women's network that we've established, ladies, over 100 ladies in 15 different offices throughout the Americas region. And we come together and have workshops like strengths finders workshops, or we'll bring in coaches or trainers, or have leadership workshops, help them with networking and building those cross-divisional, cross-functional relationships, getting to know people outside of your division, and creating a relationship, not just on a digital name where we email back and forth, but like this, where I can see you and kind of close that gap, the distance gap. So our women's network is something that I was able to champion, and has been a successful part of our company over the last year and a half, and won an award at the end of last year for best collaboration, because we put in like a leadership team in place. And so our team has won best collaboration in the company for establishing the network and taking the lead in that. Also during COVID, when that hit, I think it was mid-March or so, maybe end of March, we all started working from home, and we could just see, I could tell the toll it was taking on a lot of our colleagues who we were used to seeing every day, and we were no longer interacting like we were. And so I was talking with a coworker, and out of that conversation, we decided to develop what we call Connect Ups. And it's a digital forum where every employee is welcome to come on a Friday, and we host it, where we facilitate it, not necessarily host all of them, but we have brought on like a former Olympian who is a mental toughness coach. We recently brought on Heath Slaughter, who works with Simon Sinek, to just kind of give motivational, inspirational, encouraging. We've had professional topics held, we've had personal topics held, but all of our employees come on to this platform on Friday to we leave them our ideas to leave them better than they arrived. And so for that development, our CEO has even told me like it's boosted employee morale from what he has seen in this season. And so I think in December, so I won an award for that initiative, and just a high achiever award. So like, it's just been really, really great to have the support and acknowledgement, I guess, for those, because it's all done outside of my regular job.
I was gonna say, it sounds like you're doing a lot of stuff. I mean, you're doing the high school mentoring. We haven't even touched on your co-authoring of a book. You got you championing that. So how are you pulling this all together and getting it all done? Like, does it feel overwhelming?
No, it doesn't. I do it because I enjoy it and I'm grateful to be a part of it. And when I see there's a need and if I have the ability to implement it or I have the skills required to do it, then I do it. And I don't do it alone. You know, we're stronger in teams and more effective in teams. More brains are better than one. So with all of these kind of ideas, you know, we put together a team in place. So now we have a team running them and it's not just me. And
Yeah.
I get to let go a little bit and let somebody else build in their leadership skills and abilities. And, you know, it gives some time back to be able to do other things that I do.
That's fantastic. How does your mom feel about it? Does she, as in, I would imagine if I had a daughter that was doing all that, and then especially you're kind of, I mean, your mom worked there at that company for a number
She
of
still
years.
does.
Yeah, so she's been there for how many years do you think it's been that she's been there?
I think now, I want to say she's on her 25th or 26th year. So
Wow.
she has been there a long time. My husband also works there.
Yeah.
It's not a family company, but they have a really great incentives program where you refer people, and we just kind of stuck it out through the years.
It's
But no, my
corrupted.
mom's really proud. She's really supportive, really, really. I'm so thankful she's my mom, and just, you know, she loves well, and she loves to be a Grammy to my daughter and be there and support. And, you know, she says, go ahead and, you know, if I need a couple of hours to go do something, she'll take my daughter with her and they'll go do baking, do crafts. She's a really great grandma, and I'm thankful for her support for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I said corrupted in the sense of if you guys are just hiring people that you know, that's pretty funny, but I'm just joking around.
No, but they do have a great incentives program, and you know they've seen success come when you hire somebody you know, because you don't want to jeopardize their career, or you know, if they're putting in a good word for you and saying I vouch for this person, they'll be a good employee. And
Yeah.
it's been well. My husband's been there longer than me, and I've been there 15 years.
Yeah. Wow.
It kind of worked well for
Yeah.
us.
What hobbies or what do you like to do outside of work?
So I work out pretty regularly. I try to every day or every other day, just because I function at my best when I feel good. So I do work out. I'm pretty involved in church and activities outside of my my job with my daughter. You know, it's kind of different this season with COVID. She was in gymnastics, so we were regularly doing that. But now everything has turned virtual. So I still support her in what she likes to do. I still do a lot of stuff with maybe not necessarily my home church, but other churches. It's just a lot of it's virtual now.
Yeah.
And then our ministry, that's another one.
Gotcha. Does your daughter want to follow in your footsteps?
She does, as of now. She does. I'm thankful. I think we're still at the point where she thinks like, Mom, it's cool. She looks up to Mom. I'm not sure how long that'll last. But I always tell her I just want to support her in whatever she chooses. I open her eyes up to what I do. I give her opportunity where I can. I support her in things she wants to venture out into on her own. And, you know, I go with her to do those. And, you know, she's 9. She's learning.
Yeah. Have you, when backtracking to when you moved out on your own and got an apartment and all the costs of everything that hit you, do you ever think about when you're going to have to teach your daughter that?
Yeah, and I try to teach her now that I think finances is something that we don't always learn like we should in school and the rest of our subjects, and it gets you in trouble. And so I try to teach her that, you know, there are certain things that, yes, I will buy her the necessities and provide for her and reward her. But if there's extra things she wants, she earns money and she knows she has to pay for it. She knows there's a cost to it. So if she likes to shop at Claire's, and if she wants, you know, a couple of little accessories and it's going to cost $12, if it's Mom's money, it's no problem. We'll spend $12. But if it's her money, no. I don't want to spend my money. And so I'm really teaching her, like, look, I don't have anything to reward you for that I would buy this. And so, no, I'm not buying it. If you want it, you can use your money and buy it. And so that's another story.
Awesome. That's awesome. You wrote, how can people get in touch with you? So is it by any chance on your, any of your side projects, are you looking to grow any of them? like the mentoring high schoolers or the championing the championing the women's network, that's in your business only or in your company?
Yeah, that's in our company.
Are you looking to grow any other side? I guess are you work on any side projects where you're looking to grow it at all?
As far as like writing books, I am in process of doing that and hoping to release some. So our ministry just started Radiant Prose Publishing, and so we have a book that's my friend is getting ready to release through our publishing company. And mentoring, we have a mentoring platform we're just working on for that as well. And then I also am working with the high school girls at Poway High to do mentoring with them. I work with the Society of Women Engineers to do mentoring and just kind of I'm actually scheduled already to take a couple of trainings through them and the San Diego County Engineering Council. I work with them to do a lot of just support where I can. I'm like, I'm given this opportunity to be in this field, and I want to open it up and share it with whoever I can. And so if I can come in and give somebody opportunity where I have been given, that's really what I aim to do.
Tell me about that co-authoring a book. How the process was it pretty a good feeling of accomplishment afterwards? And
yeah, it was awesome. And so I had seen it online. This lady had put out, actually my friend saw it and brought it to my attention, but it was a lady that was co-authoring a book that she was kind of in the same circle that we were in, and was looking for authors to co-author with her in a chapter, write a chapter in the book that she wanted to do. And so her topic was I Quit. And she said she was looking for people to write a story or share of what they had quit that no longer serves them in life. And so I thought it would be a great opportunity because eventually, I've just always felt like I would write books eventually. I just hadn't yet. And I felt like it was a good way to get my feet wet, to start with co-authoring, see the process of that. And then in the future, if I ever want to co-author a book, which after this experience, I feel like it's definitely something I want to do, is put together a book through our publishing company and give other people the opportunity to take part in that. So we all wrote it, and I documented each step as we were going through it so that I could use that when we're ready to do that. And the book is on Amazon, but it ended up being a bestseller in a number of categories. And it was like, wow, that we could really say we have this book that is a bestseller, and just being able to experience what it's like to write and to go through the full process of publishing is a cool opportunity. It's a cool experience.
That's pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. I know nothing about writing books or anything, so it seems so foreign to me. It's
the book. It's called I Quit.
Oh,
it's
awesome.
Letting go of things that no longer serve you.
Put that just a tiny bit closer, like take up the whole screen.
Let's see, how do we do that? Like this?
There you go. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
cool.
It's on Amazon, and then each part we each have a chapter in it, and then the back is our biographies and a picture of each author that wrote their section, and it's cool. I've got a lot of feedback, positive feedback.
What was your story? Just in a nutshell, what was your story in there?
My chapter is on I quit living in my comfort zone. So it was really stepping out of that day-to-day life that I had been living in that kept me so comfortably bound in the day in, day out routine. And it wasn't until I stepped out that I started seeing things in my world change and opportunities come and open up. And so it was good stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at like even reading books. I prefer audiobooks. I used to do more reading when I was in my early 20s. And I'm not sure what happened, or it put me to sleep so often. So I don't know.
You got to find a different time to read. So I go through that, and I have gone through that where I end up just falling asleep because I'd find myself at the end of the day grabbing my book and trying to get through it. And then I fall asleep before I know it. So I just had to switch up the time that I read so that it keeps my attention, that I stay awake through it. Because oftentimes it would put me to sleep. And then audiobooks are great too. I listen to those a lot.
Yeah. So how can people get in touch with you?
Social media is probably the best way. I'm
Okay.
on Facebook, Justina Sanchez, Instagram, Justina Sanchez, LinkedIn, same.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then our ministry, we have a website. It's radiantpearlsministries.com. And then that is also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
Awesome.
So we're on all of those platforms as well.
Okay. I'll put that in the video descriptions too. What daily habits do you have that greatly improve your life?
So I read a book that was about, in the book, they talked about automating what you can automate. And so the habits that I have that are really, for me, that I've seen effective are pretty much knowing the same breakfast and lunch I'm going to eat, because it's healthy. And I've already got in my mind what I'm going to do. It's thoughtless. It saves me time. And I have it already there ready to go. So automating what you can automate in your life and then applying that every day. It's just, and it also takes up less, I don't have to use the thought and the time of what am I going to make? How's this going to, so I already know when I'm going grocery shopping or now we have groceries delivered, that kind of thing, what we're going to buy. Also working out. That for me is huge. I like to work out. I do the Beachbody workouts and they're 30 minutes and I feel really great after. I feel like I think better. I have a more positive mindset after a workout and I just feel better. I get a better night's sleep, drink a lot of water, eat. It sounds like cliche, but really when I take care of myself, I feel like I'm more effective and can better take care of everybody else around me.
Yeah. Yeah. Next question. What do you know of Vietnamese culture and or what do you find most interesting?
Um, so I enjoy their food. I don't know a ton about it. My best friend is part Vietnamese. And so I know kind of what she has explained to me about their culture and what was in her household as she grew up. Not all of it is great. Um, a lot of discipline, a lot of a heavy emphasis on education and learning, which has its pros and cons. But I think in the long run, it definitely has served well to study long hours and put in the extra time in education. Um,
Yeah, on the education thing, I don't know. I kind of don't know what to think, whether it's good or it's somewhat bad. So when I went to Vietnam 2 years ago, and I
mm-hmm,
saw this on almost, I think all my trips to Vietnam, it's common for the parents to send the kids to the public school. So then the public school is like 6 or 8 hours. Then it's common for the parents to hire a after school tutor. So then the kids will be anywhere from 3 to 5 more hours with the tutor.
mm-hmm,
So you're talking about a full day, like 12 to 13 hours. And I don't know if it was teaching the kids less about standardized testing, maybe about critical thinking, I think it would be good. But I feel like so many of the schools are doing standardized testing. Even the tutors,
mm-hmm.
it's just memorize this, regurgitate this. And so on the culture of teaching kids discipline, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I don't think it's utilizing the time the best that it can. And I fear that it's taking away from family time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's why I think that definitely has its pros and cons.
Yeah.
And as you're going through it, a lot of my coworkers that have an Asian background, whatever, if it may be Vietnamese, Chinese, their kids are in regular school, public school, but then they also go to like a Chinese school on the weekends. On a Saturday, they take extra courses outside where they're taught their heritage and what they teach them, the language and things that are important in that culture. And so I feel like it depends, I guess, on what that education entails, if it's going to be beneficial for each child or not. But I think that if everything in moderation, like
Yeah.
you definitely take the time you have with your family and value it and make memories and create those special times where your children will remember and feel loved and know that they're important. And then when they go to school, we don't always have a say on what they're going to do with the public school system and what they're going to learn, which I'm debating on where we're going to go after she's done with this school, because I'm not always enthused on what they're teaching her. But that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But really, the quality, I guess, of the content of the education, is where you could really benefit from the extra hours. But you don't, then it's kind of wasted, and you're sacrificing. You're saying yes to this and no to that if you're by
Yeah.
default.
And I hear in like Germany and Norway where the school systems putting some of the kids like 3 to 4 hours in school instead of the 6 to 8 hours of school, and the benefits of it, because kids being outside and playing actually has a lot of that they learn about life, and they learn about running around their body, but they may explore on a tree and look at ants or grasshoppers, and that discovery and that learning is something that you don't get in a classroom. So I don't know where the right answer is, but it's interesting to see where they're going with that, and it'd be interesting to see the next 40 years of that country to see maybe they have the right answer. In America we don't, but I don't think it's purely that we have the wrong answer. It's just this may not be as good as their answer.
I know personally, I can say that when my daughter was in regular school, pre-COVID, she was going to school 8 hours a day, like, kids in a regular public school system would. And then when we recently transitioned her in December to distance learning, where she's all at home now and has a teacher on Zoom 5 days a week, but they're only on Zoom for 4 hours a day. And then from there, we have a couple of lessons and, apps that we work with her for math and reading and that kind of thing. But it's definitely less hours. But I have seen her excelling more now than she has in the last 2 years academically. And so I don't know if there's some truth to that, but she's getting in a little bit less because it's 4 hours a day with the teacher on Zoom 5 days a week versus 8 hours in the classroom. But I have just seen her excel and open up in new areas in the last couple of months than I had over the last 2 years.
Wow, that's huge. I don't know if this is connected. And it's probably, it's probably not connected. So at work for me, I've told previous employers that I prefer to work a really, really hard 3 to 4 hours, and then maybe take about 2 to 3 hours, like where I'm doing emails or not programming. The hard hours where I say 3 to 4 hours of hard work, like I'm in the code, I'm deep, I'm designing something that takes up a lot of my brain power to design these conceptual ideas in the code. And then I prefer to do 2 to 3 hours of like emails and stuff like that. Maybe meetings is fine because it doesn't take up as much brain power. And then I prefer to rest if I can the rest of the time at work. When they hear me say this, they're like, "You're nuts, dude." And I say, "Hey, if I produce more stuff in these 3 or 4 hours than I produce in 8, isn't that evidence that this works?" And every manager's like, no, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, how does it not make sense? You have a happy employee that produces more, you get more production in less time, but in essence, it's the same amount of time to you because you're paying me 8 hours, but you get more work. And they're like, no, we prefer you be chained to your desk for 8 hours. They don't say that, but that's kind of a lot of these managers and owners, that's what they want out of their employees, at least some of the places I've been at.
Yeah.
So I wonder if our brains have a natural saturation point for kids too learning. So if my brain can optimally run a very heavy 3 to 4 hours, maybe that's saying something to the children too. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
think there is something to that. I definitely know that for myself, I've taken classes and courses on time management, and they talk about your Einstein hours or your Tiger hours, and what hours of the day does your brain function and you produce that high quality work at its best. So knowing those hours, and that's when I get in the stuff that requires my full-time attention, dedication, and brain power. And then once I've, feel like I'm at an end with that and my brain's kind of like not as sharp as it was going in, then that's when I do the other things that don't require as much of the brain power to get it done. There's repetitive things that need to be done, and so I think there is something to that.
Yeah, I don't think it's blood pressure. There's a certain feeling that I get when I start on a project where I'm about to do code, and I've planned out as much. I might have already planned out with the team, said, hey, we're going to design the database this way. We're going to access the data this way. Right when I get my hands on the keyboard, there's a moment to me where I know I feel refreshed. I feel it. There's this, I don't know how to describe it. I feel ready to attack this code. I'm going to hammer this code out. As I code 3 or 4 hours later, I feel fatigued of some sorts. And I know I need to take a rest, because any code that I do from then, I might just be kind of putting in bad code or just not doing as great of a job. And then tomorrow I got to maybe fix some of the stuff that I did. And that creates a problem, because I just created an hour of bad code, and maybe it takes me 20 minutes to reverse that code later.
Yeah.
So
I definitely get to those points where I know that I'm not producing as quality work as I need to be. And so being that this is an important task that needs to get done or require more brain power, I know myself to know that I have to stop for right now, and I have to revisit this at another time when my brain is refreshed, because right now, like you said, I might have to go back and redo it. I'll look at it tomorrow and be like, what was I thinking?
yeah. Back to the Vietnamese thing, what's your favorite Vietnamese dish?
I really like Vietnamese food. I like pho. I'm sure that's a popular one. And I like vermicelli, like noodle bowls. I like the spring rolls. I even like the sandwiches. Fun,
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I enjoy the culture, and I would love to be fully immersed in it one day, to just really experience it all. My experience is pretty limited outside of food with it.
Yeah.
And so, but I have an appreciation for other cultures, for sure.
Yeah, totally. In Vietnam, I think it's still labeled as no, I don't, is it labeled as a third world country? But whether it is or not, when you fly there and you land, it's mopeds everywhere. And there is an aspect of, I don't even know how to explain it. Yeah, it feels different. You got to get immersed for more than 2 weeks. Going there for 2 weeks as a vacation, you may see some of the stuff, but not too many people get the opportunity. But if you could stay for about 2 months, you start to feel the culture. You feel, for example, the lunches there. When I was there, I spent 6 months there twice.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. To feel the lunches, when I say feel the lunches there, the family usually takes almost a 2-hour lunch. So everyone will get around 2 hours off of work, and they come home for 2 hours. So you may get like a lunch that's like, could be 5 people or 13 people, and it depends on the size of your family and whatnot. But for a family where you get to see some of your cousins, your aunts and uncles for lunch, and everyone sits down together, eats together, and maybe take a nap. I mean, right after, it's common, the culture to eat, like kind of eat on the floor. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, you just sit and you have a tray, the tray's on the floor, and you just sit Indian style and eat. There's something in the culture of that is beautiful. To connect with your family, and it feels different. There is the aspect in American culture where you get together for dinner with family. There is the connection of that. But what I feel with the Vietnamese way of it is like you're taking a time out of your day and you're enjoying those 2 hours. There's something different, where I feel like dinner here in America sometimes can feel it almost feels forced because you're forced to sit down for dinner with family or someone you may not want to sit down with. I guess it could be the same there in Vietnam, but it didn't. I don't know how to explain it. It felt different. And that's why I say you got to be there for around 2 months at least, and you feel that it feels different.
I would imagine there's probably conversation that takes place, memories that are created, your hearts are united with your family members, and it's probably a sweet time.
Yeah, yeah. What do you know or think of cryptocurrency?
I don't know a whole lot about cryptocurrency. I get a whole lot of inquiries on LinkedIn from people about cryptocurrency, but I personally don't know much about it.
Why do you think you're getting inquiries from LinkedIn? Like, what is that something on your profile that says I love Bitcoin?
You know? I don't know. I think a lot of people in that world are probably trying to interact with the business professionals, knowing that they may want to invest or take a liking to it. But it's not anything I've ever ventured into or explored much. So I have really limited knowledge in that area.
When do you think was the first time you heard of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency?
I would say within the last 16 months.
Okay, so so the first time you heard about it is pretty...
Yeah,
okay.
Not more than 2 years ago.
And then do you remember what it was that you heard and then what your reaction was to it?
Thinking that, I remember hearing that was going to be the new way of currency, and my reaction was like, yeah, right. So, but I see a lot of people who I'm familiar with that dabble in that. And I know the Forex thing is pretty popular right now, and people talking about a new way of making money. And but for me, I haven't ever taken an interest that I want to go there.
Yeah.
I would imagine maybe if it were at some point, I'd start researching about it. But right now, I feel like what I do works.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of cryptocurrency.
Are you?
Huge. I think I'm super optimistic. I try to be semi-realistic, so sometimes some of my thoughts are a bit probably too optimistic sometimes. So cryptocurrency, I think it will take time for humans to adopt it. It's more because humans are stupid sometimes. In the masses, humans seem more stupid. I mean, we see it in news. We see Facebook, Twitter. People don't seem to make great decisions in groups, and governments too. Governments making regulations that sometimes don't make any sense. So, yeah, I think cryptocurrency will be, hopefully in the next 10, 15, 20 years, I hope, get more into mass adoption or something. I could be wrong on that, but cryptocurrency is unstoppable. It can't be turned off. So it's just a matter of time, I think. It's not if, it's when.
But if it's digital, doesn't that just open up more opportunity for fraud?
It does, but it's a tool. So I don't know if this would be a good example. If you got a nail that you want to hammer down, and then there's a hammer in the garage, but you don't use it as a tool, or if I go grab that hammer and kill somebody with it, it's a fantastic tool to hammer down the nail. It's probably one of the best tools, but it's humans deciding what to do with it. As for fraud, if you're thinking about hacking,
yeah, like just the whole digital world,
yeah. As for the algorithm of blockchain, like Bitcoin has been running for 12 years now. There hasn't been a single hack on the Bitcoin blockchain, but there's been hacks on exchanges. So if the exchange is using Bitcoin and the exchange doesn't secure their servers, doesn't secure the keys, doesn't secure their passwords, that's how the hacks has happened. So it all goes down to this RSA encryption. It gets pretty technical. The encryption scales, so that's as difficult as you want the encryption to be, it has to be mineable and or executable within a reasonable time span for your CPU. So meaning right now Bitcoin's using a certain, I think it's 256-bit encryption. We could go up to 512-bit encryption. We could go up to 1,000-bit encryption, 2,000, 4,000-bit encryption. But we're only using, I think, 256-bit encryption. If we get stronger processors, we could up it to 512, 1,000, whatnot. So where I'm going with that is it's the math under it is it's improbable to be hacked. Meaning, if someone has a wallet and you want to hack their private key, the private key would take a conventional server nowadays. I think I don't even know the number. It's a 1 with 70 zeros behind it. That's how many years to hack one wallet.
Wow.
But the hacks on the exchanges, because they had their passwords saved on paper or a text file or in a database that they had exposed, that was what got hacked. It wasn't the Bitcoin or the blockchain. So yeah, this stuff is, I mean, it's been for 12 years going and not a single hack on it. So the potential for it is amazing, and it scales too. Security can scale. But if you have disposable income, like if you could just throw in $1,000, let that sit and hope for maybe when your daughter's ready for college, it might pay off her college or more.
Interesting.
Yeah, so just buy some and hold it, and don't look. If you're, though, I'm guessing by the personality that you're explaining yourself, don't look at the daily, like it's going to drop and go up. The reason for that is volatility. Is we have a fraction of there's 7 billion people in the world. If there's only been 1 million people that put in money into cryptocurrency, of course it's going to be volatile because we don't have enough people adopting it yet. Once we get enough people to adopt it, the money's going to go up and it'll get a little bit more stable. So don't look at the graphs or the charts every day. Just put in $500, $1,000 if you can. If you can put in more, great, $5,000, $10,000, and just hold. And that's the whole thing. You hear some of the memes like HODL, holding. There's some memes on that. Just buy and hodl, hold. Just buy, leave it, walk away for 10 years, and maybe it's going to be a huge amount of money by then. Because I mean, we've seen it. In 2012, people are like, oh, it's too late to buy. Bitcoin was 2 cents. It's too late to buy. It jumped up to 17 cents. Oh, it's too late. 2015 or 16. Oh, it's too late to buy. It just jumped up to 100. Oh no, I think the 2012 was it 2012. Somewhere around the 2013, 2012, it jumps up to $117, and people are like, oh, it's too late. It went from 17 cents to $117. Then in 2017, oh, it's too late to buy. It hit $20,000. And then today it's at $40,000. They're saying, oh, it's too late to buy. But when you're talking about a fraction of the money in the global economy is in, it could hit $500,000 a coin. It could hit $1 million per coin. We don't know where it's going to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's maybe something to research.
Yes. Yeah, research some of it. And if you have questions, feel free to ask me.
All right. Thank you.
No problem. What is the biggest problem nationally and or globally, and what should humans do to fix it?
Nationally and globally.
Globally.
Nationally or globally. I think that we have walked away from the intent of what this world was created for. And I really think that eyes and hearts need to be turned so that we can come back into alignment with what this world was intended to be. There's so much division. There's so much chaos. There's so much destruction going on. And it's sad to see the state that our country's in and that the world as a whole is in. But I really feel like it all comes back to one source, and unfortunately people have not seen that yet. But that's where I feel like individually it's our responsibility to utilize the areas that we have been given, the platforms, the influence we have been given to be a light and to bring that positivity and be the atmosphere changers in these situations, to bring hope into these situations, to be a light in these situations, um, because it's sad and it's dark.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on the it's getting dark. Name at least one person that you know of personally that should do this conversation with me. Call them out.
Have you thought of Olivia? I don't know if you guys
I
still talk.
Yeah, I met up with her probably 4 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
She was out here in Vegas, so we met up and yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah,
I don't really know what she's up to. I keep up with her on social media, and that's
hmm
it. But
yeah.
cool gal. She lived right by my mom, or her parents did, or something for many years until she moved.
Yeah. It could be anybody that I don't know too. It doesn't have to be somebody that I know. Like, do you know anybody that has interesting stories or interesting career, or somebody that has a lot of opinions on certain things?
Huh. I mean, I do. I know a handful of people, like, I think just in our industry. Oh, there's a couple of people that come to mind. I'm not sure how they'd feel about it, but
Just say
there's
their first name. Just
these
say their
two
first name if you
girls.
want.
So I'm thinking of Lindsay and Mercedes. They're two girls that have a podcast called Flash Chicks, and they're female engineers that I met through the Society of Women Engineers.
Oh, that sounds
And
awesome.
they're fun. I could see them enjoying a good
Awesome. Yeah.
conversation.
Afterwards, we'll figure out a way to connect them and me. So give me a little update on you and your life, kind of even just like current events. Just so what are you up to today? What have you been up to for the last few months?
Today, I have the pleasure of being here with you.
Awesome.
And I have class tonight. I'm going to school, working full time. I was working last night. I was in our labs. Due to COVID, we're trying to do the split shifts if we have to go in the lab and do testing. And so last night, I usually go in the afternoon if I need to go in. And so I was there last night doing some dust testing and see, homeschooling too. I have my daughter here. Actually, I'm not her teacher. She's doing distance learning, and so we have a classroom set up in her bedroom where she does distance learning. But all day long, it's like a hands-on thing. She comes in and out of my office, so I have a spare bedroom that I've turned into my home office, and then she has classroom right next door. So it's
What's
interesting.
Is it like a public school or a private school? And yeah, is it public or private?
It is a public school. So she's in a Spanish immersion program. She's been in since kinder. So her school teaches Mandarin or Spanish, and then they learn the other language. So her teachers up until this year have always taught in all Spanish. And then she's got since kinder an hour of Mandarin a week. And so she has a pretty good grip on basic entry level Mandarin words and talking and little short sentences. But she's fluent in Spanish, and I am not. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Wow, she's fully fluent. If she talks to your mom in Spanish, like she has full on conversation, everything.
Yeah.
Holy
She's
cow!
9, and when I heard about this school, they also teach in English. So this year they start bringing in the English program, and I've always read with her in English and make sure that her grammar in English and everything. She right now is where she's supposed to be in English and in Spanish. And so I'm thankful that I've heard about this school because I would love to know Spanish.
That's so interesting. And I mean, so I was born in Texas, but my parents actually, as far as I understand, they taught me Vietnamese first. And then right around the age of 5, well, okay, I don't know exactly. I think it was a mixture of Vietnamese and English up till the age of 5. And then the story goes, I don't know how true it is. The story goes is my dad was working 3 jobs and he's like, no, I don't want this for my kids. So he said, I'm teaching you guys English. And at the age of 5, it was all English at home, supposedly. That I don't really remember it. But I actually am grateful when I think about my career in IT, and it's amazing how English has become kind of more important than I expected. Meaning, I thought like as a programmer, like I would just sit at a computer and type code. I wouldn't have to worry about English. But I found that certain corporate companies where I worked, and like the way I composed emails, the way I spoke to people, the way that I even had like one manager is like, hey, you use a lot of big vocabulary. Like, I think not, I don't know. I think there's something that goes on subconsciously where people might respect me more because how how well I know English, I guess. I don't think it's a huge thing, but I think it did really help. I actually had one interview where they, after the interview, they said, "Oh, we were so afraid by what we were afraid by the name of your name on your resume that you were going to come in talking all fobby and you would only know you would know." It was a bit offensive. It was actually an Asian guy that said this to me. So I think the other people in the interview wouldn't dare say
Yeah.
this, but he was Asian, and he has an accent. He came to America when he was 18 or 19. But he wanted a good programmer, but he also wanted someone he was afraid of picking up a programmer that has a heavy Asian accent and maybe not understand maybe American culture and whatnot. It almost felt a bit racist for him to say that, but he is Asian.
Yeah.
Because in corporate America, I don't think anybody would typically say that. That'd probably be really bad. So
No, I
anyways,
feel
yeah.
like there really is a subconscious cultural bias. I think that everybody has, well, maybe not everybody, but majority of the population in, our country, and especially in corporate America, that if you don't speak English and or maybe you do with a thick accent, I think there's a bias that a lot of people are not aware of until you're made aware of it. And
Yeah.
then you have to make that effort to change your thinking about that, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, totally. And I think it's awesome that you got your daughter speaking fluent Spanish. That's amazing. Well, how's that program work out? So are they, or walk me through you raising your kid up to that school. So that school was when did she start? 4 years old, 5 years old?
She started in kinder at the language academy. And so before that, I had her with a nanny that was Colombian. And so she would speak to her because Spanish was her first language. She would speak to her in Spanish. And then we speak English at home in our house. So she kind of would get both. And then I had her go to a preschool at 2.5. And so from 2.5 up until she was 5, when they can go to kinder, it was all English. And so she learned how to read, how to write. It was a great preschool, and they really instilled a great academic foundation inside of her. And, when she got out of there, she was far past kids at kinder when they come out. They just really work with the kids, and it was great. And so I had heard about this language academy and thought, I would have loved to speak Spanish, but I was never taught growing up. And I just think as you get older, and especially as you step into your career when you're older and into the workforce, you have so many more advantages. If you're bilingual, there's more opportunity. And so to be able to give that to her is really what the motivating factor behind it was. And so I attended all of the meetings I had to. We have to do an interdistrict transfer because we're not in that area, but it's worth it because I see her now and I can see her talk with some of my family who is fluent, and I'm just blown away.
Gosh, that's
She's my
gotta
little
be
translator sometimes.
to even also. I wonder, as a parent, seeing your child interact with your mom, your family it's almost another level compared to what you can. Meaning, because she's able to speak in their native language, so certain feelings maybe. So how do you interact before her? How did you interact with your mom or your family? So did they know enough English to say everything that they wanted?
Yeah, definitely. They're my dad's side of the family is Hispanic, and so they are bilingual, English and Spanish. it was always like, why don't you speak Spanish? But I'm like, they never taught me. I don't know. So everybody, would know I don't speak Spanish and talk to me in English. But I just think that it's great to be able to give that to my daughter, and then to see her interact, with aunts and uncles who are fluent and that's their first language, and they just, chat it
Yeah.
up.
Do you feel that? So for example, my dad, I know there until I learned Vietnamese more, I started realizing what he really wanted to say in English per se. Like there's just certain keywords, certain feelings he wanted to express. And when I first like say his vocabulary is he's fluent English, but his vocabulary isn't vast. So there's times where he uses the wrong words and or he doesn't know a word to express what he's feeling. So I think that was a little bit of another layer for me to get better in my Vietnamese in the last 12 years. I noticed during that time, I'm able to pick out a bit better what he means, if that makes sense. A bit better of what his feelings are on certain topics. Do you feel that if your personal experience and or seeing it through your daughter now, as in how she could talk to your family, do you see that at all?
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's words, I guess, that don't necessarily translate to English, or they have a hard time translating them. And it's cute to try to see her include me. She said, "This is what they're saying, Mama, and this is what they mean." But like I said, she's my translator. We've been in situations where there's somebody who doesn't speak English, and so she will translate for me.
That's awesome. So English at home until the age of 5, basically. Except for you had the nanny, the Colombian nanny. How was the Colombian nanny strictly Spanish only while with your daughter, or?
Yeah, she had pretty broken English, but she was one of my coworkers' cousins and lived fairly close to the office where I worked. And so she, because we knew her and she was a stay-at-home, she was raising her daughter that's pretty close in age. She offered to watch my daughter. And, after maternity leave, she had went a couple of places, but that was really after we bounced around a little bit. That was the one steady that we had for a good year and a half until she was ready to go to preschool.
So her English was pretty good, and then the nanny was just adding Spanish at that time. At the kinder thing, was it all Spanish, or did they?
Yeah. So they tell you going into this program, if you're going to do it, you have to stick it out till 5th grade, kinder through 5th, because it's going to be 100% Spanish while they're in kinder and first. The kids don't even know their teachers speak English, even though they're English speakers. That's their native language. But you have to stick it out so that they can bring up the English throughout the years as they get older. So they'll start incorporating 20-80, 20% English, 80% Spanish. And then the next grade, it'll be 30-70. And then, and so on as they complete. And when they get out of 5th grade, their English and Spanish is 100% where they need to be. So in other words, if they transferred in 2nd grade from the language academy to another school that doesn't speak English, their English and grammar skills may not be where they need to be. So it's a big decision to make, but we're in 4th grade. We plan to stick it out through 5th grade. And at home, we really work with her to make sure she reads and writes in English and doesn't lack there.
A personal story that I have, and it sounds like your program wouldn't do this to your child, but I'll just bring it up in case just it brings up thoughts. So when I was 7 years old, because I think my parents taught me heavily in Vietnamese until the age of 5. So then I was more heavily in English between age 6 and 7. I think around the 7 or 8 years old, and this person, we all went to school together. Olivia said to me when I was 8 years old, and it hit me, and I remembered it for a long time. It was a negative. It made me sad. But as kids, we say things we don't mean it, and I don't hold anything against her on that at all. If anything, it probably helped me. She said to me, "Why do you have an accent?" And just that one sentence, like it hit me, like it made me sad, and I was like, I don't want this Asian accent. I want to be like everyone else around me. Now, at that time, I moved to like a more predominantly white neighborhood, and a predominantly white school. Oh shoot, I'm sorry. The age was it? It was 8. Okay, yeah, 6, 7, or it was 7 or 8, somewhere around there. Maybe 9 years old, and it that hit me to the point of where I could remember for many years going to school where I told myself, I'm gonna lose this accent. I want to sound like, yeah. So it's kind of sad, but there is an aspect where I say in my career now, being able to not have an accent where actually some people on the phone, when they see my name Liem, I say Lem, but sometimes on the phone I'll say Liam just because it's phonetically easier for them to get it. And then they're like, oh, are you Irish? Because they hear my voice and then they see the name and they think, yeah. So it kind of helps a certain perception, because if they only hear me over the phone, I've actually had people say, is it a tall? They asked somebody else that knew me that haven't seen me but only interacted with me over the phone. They're like, is it a tall Irish guy? And I just start laughing.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that that's our culture here in America, and it really starts at home. We got to teach our children that it's okay everybody is okay the way that they're made, and we accept everybody. Nobody's we're all different, and that's what makes it beautiful. Everybody has their own unique look, talk, accent, whatever it may be. There's nobody else that's like that. And so I think we really need to teach them to embrace each other and our unique differences.
Yeah. I imagine going to a school like that for your daughter would help kind of, because she sees so many other kids doing the same program, so it makes her feel like she's able to fit in. Because I mean, all kids, I think psychologically, they just want to fit in, I think. So what's going to happen when she gets to 5th grade or after 5th grade? Do you plan on getting her to a different, how's that work? Is it a different type of school, like public school, or?
Yeah, they have a middle school that a majority of the kids go to that has, at that point, when you do different periods, they have a Spanish period, but I think they extend it to be a little bit broader for the children that have come out of that school. They incorporate it a little more than your average middle school would have a Spanish class. Yeah. But, it's up to each parent. I feel like doing the kinder through 5th has set a solid foundation. I'm really hoping that she keeps that the rest of her life. So I would like her to continue to take at least a Spanish course here and there and interact with people in Spanish, and just family speaking regularly will keep her brain fresh with it.
Mm-hmm. If you don't mind me asking, what is your family's background like? You were born in the U.S., or when did your parents come here, and what was their history? Just kind of, if you don't mind.
I'm born and raised in San Diego. Mm-hmm. And my father and his side of the family is Hispanic, born in Mexico, moved here when they were young. And then my mom and her side of the family is Mexican and Irish. So one of my grandmothers was full Irish. Her parents came here from Ireland and then moved to Nebraska and just, made their way to California and met my grandfather, who was Hispanic. So I'm a quarter Irish and 3/4 Hispanic. And I think growing up, my mom said that the Spanish, my mom and dad felt like the Spanish wasn't something that they wanted. I think it started with my grandfather, actually. My mom said that he felt they had a disadvantage when they moved here speaking Spanish and not as much English.
Yeah, so my dad too.
My mom's, her and that whole generation, their children, they didn't teach them fluent Spanish. And then my father passed away when I was young, who did speak fluent Spanish. So my mom, not fully knowing it, she raised me, and I just never knew and learned growing up. That's why.
Yeah, my dad and mom came here after the 1975 Vietnam War. I think they met in Chicago and then eventually moved to Texas, where I was born. And when the story goes, when my dad had 3 jobs, and he later on in his life, I think there's so much evidence throughout his career where he felt he wasn't able to get certain promotions that he wanted because of the language barrier and back then, just the straight up racism, really. I mean, America has done I would say in more city areas, it feels like, from what I hear from my parents, of the racism back then towards Asians. And I would say fortunately, it didn't seem as bad as maybe certain other races, maybe towards blacks. When I talk about the racism towards Asian, I'm thinking maybe the racism towards blacks was a little bit worse. I don't know. That's just the stories I put together. So when my dad went through trying to work 3 jobs and going through the racism and not getting promotions he wanted, him wanting to teach me English, me and my brother English, it was a very emotional choice for him, because, you know, he's throwing away like Asian culture, Vietnamese culture, to some extent. I mean, I totally understand it. Sometimes I tell some of my younger cousins, I have cousins right now that some of them aren't doing too well in high school. Some of them, it's when generations have come, and some of the Vietnamese generation, every family is probably like this. You'll have generations where some people come and get acclimated, or they get lazy. And I have some cousins that got lazy, and I got some cousins that are pushing really hard into college. But the ones that are turning out lazy, I try to tell them, like, I probably shouldn't get too personal, but I don't want to get too personal in their business. I don't care about me personally, but in their business. I'll try to phase in a way that it doesn't make it obvious who I'm talking about, in case they watch this. They weren't doing too well in school, and somehow the conversation turned up where they made fun of my dad's accent. And we're at dinner or lunch, I forget, I think it was dinner. And I turned to my cousin, I said, "Do you know what my dad's been through to get here? And then how many jobs he worked at, and with the racism that happened through 1975 till probably through the 90s, and it started getting better after the 90s. I have so much respect for this man. Like, I understand he gave up so much to give me the life that I have. And I said to my cousin, you were raised here. You're expected to know so much more English, so you don't get a break. If anything, I feel like everything that you do should be, you've been given such a huge opportunity. You better take it. You better take it. You better run with it." But I'm pretty sure he didn't hear that. And he heard like, well, I was born here. I have the right. You're born here. You were given something. Use it, appreciate it. Even if you appreciate it and don't do a whole lot with it, that's okay, but appreciate it. Because you could have been easily born in some other country, and you could be poor. You could be born into a poor family. You don't get to choose where you're born. Right.
Right. It really is a gift, I think, to be born and raised here and in America, and the freedoms we have and the rights we have. And really, that's why I feel it starts at home and teaching our children. And when we're made aware of those biases that we have, to really make the effort to consciously change that. It takes work. But I think if we all do our homework and do the work that's required, our next generation is not going to be as mean or as have that first initial impression of somebody's not good enough because they don't have the perfect English, we can change that now. And so I really want to let my daughter know and instill in her that we are all created unique and different. This home belongs to all of us. Nobody's better than the other,
Yeah, that really should be the message. This earth, this land is for everyone, and we need to work together. Unfortunately, I don't know what's going on with Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Fox News, CNN. It's polarizing everything, and divisiveness. It's kind of crazy.
I've opted out of. I don't even really watch TV anymore. I'm really careful on what I will allow myself to see and hear and read. I I feel like I get a heightened sense of awareness when I'm being told something that isn't truth, and I see that all over the media. And so I really just don't partake in it. I choose not to watch it. I live my life and do as I feel that I should, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's I don't know if it's a human trait or what. I just spoke with kind of like a psychologist a few talks ago, and I told them I feel like I try to do well in my circle, and I feel that a lot of people do say that. What's wrong? Like, why do we feel that the majority is doing wrong, even though a lot of individuals seem to be trying to do good in their life? And it was an interesting conversation. I don't think we, I think the biggest point that she made was she thinks the biggest problem is the idea of being one unique person or being one of a whole. And she thinks that maybe America needs to somehow change that culture. We need to think that we're one of a whole. We're all working together. But that doesn't seem to be the case in America. It's like everybody wants to be a snowflake. They want to be unique. They want to be on Instagram and flaunt their private jets or flaunt their Lamborghinis. It's a complicated world that we walk into, or that we're in, or maybe a complicated world for your daughter. Maybe because we're older, maybe me and you, we're older, your parents are older, my parents. For us right now, we're kind of probably mentally grounded on what we think is good.
Yeah, I really, I try to do well with the areas that I'm given, the influence that I have. I carry in every atmosphere that I go in. I try not to be affected by what's going on there, but I bring what I carry into it and try and spread that, because that's what I just feel is good and right and light. I don't want to succumb to the things of the world and thinking that possessions are what make my value, what make me. We are all loved, unique, individual, different, and beautiful. And that's kind of what makes America America, is all our own uniqueness. And I feel like we really need to love and encourage each other and not divide each other from one another, point out our differences. That's not for us to do and call and be a part of. And that kind of thing I just don't partake in.
Yeah. Have your parents been back to their hometown where they were born?
My mom was born here in San Diego.
You said that, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. How about your grandparents? Have they been back?
So they're all passed away, unfortunately. All of them over the years have passed away. And so I don't have any living grandparents left anymore. I have a lot of aunts and uncles, but all of my mom's family was born here. And then my dad's family, Mexico, and they frequent a lot, not deep down in Mexico, so it's just across the border, and we're from San Diego. So
for my dad. So my dad was born in Vietnam, and then his first time back, I think it was, I forget, I want to say late 90s. So he spent 20 something years in America before he went back. And then I went with him, I want to say his second or third trip back. And to me, that was a powerful event in my life for the reasons of being able to see certain things, like, I guess so being one generation away, I guess, meaning where my dad was born in Vietnam, I was born here. So certain things my mom and dad would teach me, the certain Asian culture, when I'm here in America and I'm like watching other kids, and then my parents are like, "Oh, do your homework. Oh, you gotta clean your dishes like this," or it's like an Asian tradition behind it. And at the age of 24, when I went back to Vietnam for the first time, and then with my dad, to see how all parents were doing that over there, it like kind of hit home to me. It was beautiful.
Wow. Yeah.
it made me look at it slightly different. And I think that's to all of us when we get older. When we think back when we're young and getting disciplined, at that time when we're young, we're upset at our parents. When we get older, we're like, okay, that discipline did some good. It made me appreciate or understand life differently and better.
Yeah, I have my best friend is Vietnamese, and she was telling me a story about how her mom is from Vietnam and moved here, and she used to wake them up really early in the morning and have them study and read and write at a really young age and for many, many years. But it helped her in the long run. At the time, the children don't like it, but in the long run, it helped her. As an educator, she was telling me by the age of 4 or something, she could spell government. And that's a big word for a 4-year-old, but it had instilled some good values in her, and that importance of education. And really, she got a jump start on it,
Yeah, totally. We see it often with, it's weird. I don't know where the human nature, it's when we have to that we do. Like when my dad came here and he's working 3 jobs, I think if right now someone said, "Hey, Liem, you're gonna have to work 3 jobs to get by," I'm a privileged American, and it's like I say privileged American in the sense of in my head somehow it's ingrained that no, I wouldn't work 3 jobs, but if I had to, no one thinks about it. If you're in a place where you have to, then you just do it.
Yeah.
It's a weird
and especially as a father or a parental, any parent who's expected to provide for your family, you do what you have to do, regardless if it's 1 job, 2, 3, whatever that looks like, and however that looks in order to provide for your children, your wife, or whoever you're supporting.
Yeah. When you reflect on that through high school, if you think back to you when you were 16 years old, 14 years old, did you have those thoughts kind of thinking on how your mom worked so much or anything? And then now that you're a mother, do you reflect on those things?
I think when I was in it at that time, I didn't realize it. And it wasn't honestly until I moved out and got my own apartment and I realized that everything here costs money. And I run out of it. Like even just like your candles or your cooking spray or the little things, I really started to be like, man, it costs money. My mom really did have to put a lot of effort into raising and having a comfortable home, because it's not, after 1 meal's over, it's like there's another one. You get hungry again, and I'm like, everything costs money, and the reality of that did not hit until I was out on my own. And I really, looking back at that point, I was so appreciative of the life my mom gave me that, we never went hungry. There was always food in the fridge, and you think it's normal when you don't know any better, but it's not until you are on your own. And I'm like, wow, I open the fridge and there's nothing there. Well, guess what? You need to have money. You need to go shopping. You need to fill it up. It takes work.
Yeah, I sometimes, I would say I sometimes complain and I don't enough say my appreciation for the people that helped raise me. My mom, my dad, my aunts, uncles. As a kid, when you're a kid, you think of you. So I think, oh, they're really harsh on me on this and they're really harsh on me on that. But when you get older, thank you for raising me and making me appreciate the things that I have. Even though it took many years, I now appreciate those things. I understand why you yelled at me so much and why I was reprimanded so much. There's still at times I think they over reprimanded me, but that's probably the nature of parents and kids, meaning it's very tiresome to raise children. I don't have children. I can't imagine being a father raising a child in the sense of the responsibility, like you as a mother having to provide food, hug her, tuck her in a bed. Like if she breaks something, you still maybe reprimand her, but then you got to love her afterwards. it's
Yeah.
tiring. It's almost, it's so many things that's so,
It's one of
there's
the
so many,
hardest jobs for sure,
yeah,
but it's one
yeah,
of the most rewarding jobs at the same time. And
yeah.
everything we do, oftentimes it's harder for me to discipline her than it is for her. Like I take away the phone and it breaks my heart to have to do that, but you know what? It's you can't be getting away with things. If we say we're going to do something, we have to follow through with it regardless of, as a parent, how hard that is for you to put your child through that. I mean, the phone was just a little lightweight one, but there are certain things where you're like, I know it's for your own benefit and we are responsible for raising you and we need to do a good job with you. And so we want to instill values in you and we want to, open your eyes. And at the same time, we want to love on you and reward you when you do right things. So you got to find that balance all the time. It's a constant.
My ex-girlfriend's nephew, I would babysit him from time to time, and then his aunt would watch me sometimes, and she would say, "Why do you explain everything to him?" And I was so what I would do is like he would take a toy, and then I'm sitting there watching TV. Maybe I grab a toy and I'm playing with it, and then he would like grab the toy out of my hand. I would take the toy back and I said, "You don't do that, Brody. Like, Brody, you have to understand that, it's in my hand. I'm playing with it. You got to be fair. If you want it, you could ask for it." And then I'd like go into a whole like thesis on, so the psychology of blah, blah, blah. Like this is, someone has it first, so you have to respect that you could ask for it. But it could be anything. I mean, it could be from playing with a toy to him asking about playtime. Like I would say something to him like, if I come home from work and I'm really tired, I may not want to play with him. I need an hour or two just to kind of decompress and whatnot. And then he would ask me like about work and why I don't feel like playing with him. I would explain everything. But the funny thing with kids is years later, he started connecting everything I said. He remembered it all. Like his brain like remembered every sentence that I said.
Wow.
And then his aunt said to me years later, said, "You know what? Thank you for doing that. Now I'm doing that now too." I explained to him like he's an adult. I talked to him like he's an adult. He might be, at that time, I think he was 8 years old when she figured this out. And I was dealing with him when he was like 3, 4, and 5 years old. And she said, "Thank you. He seems to be very understanding about everything. And he remembers everything too." So then I responded to her. I said, "Hey, don't be hard on yourself, because the other thing is you're helping raise your nephew and you're spending a lot of time." Like she was almost like a secondary mom. Like she was spending so much time with him. And I said, "Hey, I don't blame yourself. Raising a child like that is a lot of time, and they break stuff and they make you upset and they make you a little crazy. I don't know if I would have the patience to explain everything if I was the parent, because it's really taxing to deal
It
with."
is. It is. It's worth it though, like you said, because in the long run, we want to explain to them why we're doing something, and
Yeah,
so that they have an understanding. So next time, like we don't just grab. We have to ask
yeah,
if you want something. But it is. That's why I said it takes work every day.
yeah,
There are no
yeah.
days off when you're a parent.
So any last thoughts, any conclusions on this talk, anything that came to mind?
Um, Not anything, I mean, that I'd like to add. I think it was a good conversation. Appreciate
Yeah.
you taking time and allowing me to come on and share with your audience and your community.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I mean, from your story, your Mexican background to being a woman in the workforce and dealing with in a field that's predominantly men, to hear that story. And then we talked about your daughter and her schooling and whatnot, and being a parent. I think we hit a lot of awesome topics.
Sweet, that's cool. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity and hope that a lot of our next generation will be the ones that these stereotypes are no more.
Yeah, I hope it's a matter of time. I do see, I feel like in our timelines, I've seen it for as little as this as little as this may mean, but I think it's a good correlation. So back in the 1990s, when I'd go to a Vietnamese restaurant, you rarely ever see a white person or anybody other, even a Mexican person in those restaurants, or any other race. So then nowadays, when I go into a Vietnamese restaurant, you see everyone. You see all colors of skin in there. It's fantastic. And yeah, I think it's just a matter of
I
time.
definitely appreciate other cultures and raising my daughter to do so and the difference they bring, you know.
Yeah.
I like
yeah.
it.
All right, Justina, thank you for the talk. It was awesome. Hopefully I'll have you back again sometime soon.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. This was fun.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.